Okay, just a quick thought on drop. Sometimes when you're cutting material for a project, you end up with a 3 or a 4 inch long or something with a 45 on it, and it's drop, but it's long enough that you say, maybe I can use that for something. And my advice here today is make sure you use it for something and that it doesn't just pile up like in the bottom of your metal rack as like a bunch of 2 inch long pieces of 11 gauge square tube. Make sure you don't do that because you'll get so much that it'll become a burden and you will end up just throwing it away. And if you're a high volume production shop and you're doing jobs, just throw it away. Put it in the scrap bin, say peace, it'll be okay. But if you're working on small projects or you're a hobbyist, you want to use those materials because it makes you feel good. It's part of your art. And you don't want them to just collect forever because there's actually a finite amount of space where you can pile that stuff up. And if you keep going and collecting it, you will get so much stuff that you won't be able to even use it because you can't get to it because it's got other stuff piled on top of it. So if you get anywhere close to that, make sure you start using it for something. So today I'm fabbing up some carts and I was able to recycle some steel, and there's some steel that I've had laying around for a long time. And I was able to size my project and get that working for that. And then, of course, I went through my 1.25" by 11 gauge box and I found all these pieces. And, you know, I sat around here for about 10 minutes with the torch and I welded them together. I'm running the shop on the inverter today, so I had to lower my current down to around 110 amps, which means, you know, I have a little too much dwell time at each joint, putting too much heat into the material, but that's okay. They turned out mostly okay. They're pretty straight. You can see a couple of little bananas here and there. But mostly they're straight enough for what I'm going to do with them. Often you'll get that they're curving one direction, but not both directions. And so sometimes you can just flip it and let it curve. And that doesn't affect the end product because, for instance, you're like welding a caster to it on the one plane, on the horizontal plane. And so as long as it's horizontally flat, it doesn't matter if it curves. If the vertical is flat, it doesn't matter if it curves on the horizontal. So that's just a thought. You know, if you're welding material like this together, you know, if you have a MIG welder, you could bevel it and then fill the bevel. If you're welding with a TIG, you know, just have enough dwell time that you burn a keyhole into it. You melt the keyhole into it and then you know you're getting full penetration. But often the design strength for a project doesn't require such, like, as I said, I'm using it for casters, so shouldn't be a big deal. Here's another example where I had made an error. I had been prepping this for a modification. I have some carts here that I fabricated for a project that I didn't end up doing. And so I'm gonna cut this top one off and turn it into 2 little square carts. And because when I cut it off, I'm not gonna have a miter. And so I was planning on cutting this square and welding a cap on it, but I accidentally cut it with miters because that's very normal for me. So I found these pieces of drop and I cut them just right. So I'll be able to square cut the existing cart and then weld this on, and then I'll stitch this together, and it should turn out pretty good. I'm sure nobody will notice. But just thinking of ways to use drop, so most importantly, it doesn't pile up on you, because you keep saying, "Oh, I could use that for something." Just make sure you use it for something. Yeah, so that's my project. That's my advice on drop. I hope that motivates you to go weld your drop together and have good welding practice. Anyway, thanks. See you next time.